Hello and good day. Today's video is about pricing your services and margins. So the first thing I want to look at is pricing your services. Now, there are three different ways to price your services. The first one is you can have a fee for your time. You can exchange money for hours, swap time for money. Yeah, that's fairly business as usual. It's what people are used to paying for. They're like, it's an easy, common thing to say, what's your hourly rate? Um, so that's one option. Another way you can price your services is by being competitive. You can look at what other people are offering that are offering comparable services and how much they're charging. You can try to be cheaper, you can try to be more expensive, you can try to be faster or better. Um, Again, that's like you can position yourself in the market. The tricky thing about both of those pieces is that the first one, it's just not scalable. It's you only have so many hours in a day that you can work. If you hire other people to do it, that does lead to scale, but the quality, the what people are expecting can be variable. So it's a path, especially if you're willing to hire and it's a replicable service. But otherwise, it can be challenging to scale or to get yourself enough time and space to actually develop your business model. Pricing competitively is tricky because there's always going to be somebody out there that's cheaper or faster or better. Positioning yourself in relationship to something that is constantly changing means that you're constantly changing. And that's just like not the most grounded or stable way to position yourself or your business. Now, the third option, and this is the one that I think has the most bang for its buck and really positions you to be showing up with clarity and connection with your clients, is around value, right? Pricing your services around the value that you provide to the people you work with. Now, this is not like your worth or how much you deserve. No, scratch all that stuff. This is really about who you support, right? You need to have your niche clarified, but you need to know what they need and what is of value to them. And them is not like some stranger. It's actually like people that you care about. It's usually a problem that you resonate with. It's hopefully, ideally, something you too have overcome or you're incredibly familiar and competent with. And then you are positioning yourself in a way that supports them and what they need. And you are offering something that is of such high value that they don't care how long it takes you. In fact, yeah, they just don't care because what they want is what you're offering and the value that you're providing is clear. Now, that can be a journey, that can be a process in oneself to be able to articulate the value and to have enough insight into the customer to be able to speak to that in a way that brings their consent forward. But I do think positioning your services and your pricing and your packaging in service to the client is fundamental for long-term success as a business owner. It's also most likely to set you up for really healthy and happy relationships with the people you're working with. So that's where I would look. Now, deciding on what the exact value that somebody has or is willing to spend is also a dance. But when you know them well enough, or when you go through the process of getting to know them, you can start to identify some of the challenges they're facing. You can start to calculate some of the costs they're facing, what that problem being unsolved is costing them. And that's going to give you insight into the value. So something to keep in mind there when you are getting to know your clients, whether you're doing interviews or you're assessing some of the clients you've worked with and you're saying, what were they struggling with and how did I help them? That can be really helpful. You know, one of the things that I support people with is leading with love and having really crucial conversations and being really prepared for them. Now, I can't say, hey, you're having a grating conversation with one of your direct reports. That's probably costing you X dollars. I can't put a number to a number. That's why the time to money ratio can be challenging and limiting. But I can, as I know the folks that I'm working with, whether they're hiring somebody for the first time, whether they've got a team and they're experiencing friction, or whether they're just like unsettled inside about how they are able to communicate with their team, I know that that's costing them a lot of uh, emotional bandwidth. It's definitely costing them money. Their mindset might be getting tangled in this. And so the value of being able to uh, be present and prepared for critical conversations with crucial team members can be priced so that it works for them. And they say, oh, well, if this issue is resolved, it's worth the price. There's just no doubt. Okay, I think that's all I want to say on the ways to price your services. Now let's talk about margins. So, because this is a crucial part of being able to evaluate the success or the current money moment of your business is in the margins. Now, a margin is the energetic space between the price someone pays for your services or your product or whatever it is you're offering and the cost for you to deliver that. Now, on a digital product, the margin is quite large because you've made it once and they just our people are buying it. Now it's a little tricky because are they buying it without you doing anything? Probably not, right? There are other costs associated with that, and it's a little bit of a unique equation to figure out how much you're spending to get the word out versus per product. But that's kind of part of what we figure out here. And it's similar with services, right? So one of the ways to look at it is within a week and the capacity of your team, or what I like to call inventory. There are X number of pieces of time, chunks of time, like hours or days, that can be leveraged in order to deliver that service. Now, if you are doing a fee for time, it's very crystal clear. 40 hours, 30 hours, 20 hours, whatever, this many dollars per hour. That is your inventory. That is what it takes to that your margin is there. It doesn't quite include the marketing expenses or other kind of fixed costs that come with your business, but that has to be included in there. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. And so figuring out what the margin is essential for you to be able to determine whether the energy going out is worth the energy coming in. Something to keep in mind regarding margins. If you have a small margin, the way to be profitable is to have lots of sales that can work on something that doesn't take people to produce, and there are other things you're doing to go for that quantity. But in general, like having such large volume of sale can be vulnerable for different reasons because of like what happens when the market changes, right? Now, if you're selling something with a large margin, you have the advantage of like one sale being a significant boon for your company, but you're really reliant on supply and demand being in your favor. So again, if that changes, you are left vulnerable. Now, if you are selling something that has a sustainable margin, something that covers your costs and produces enough revenue and profit to be able to grow, refine, improve, hire, take risks, that is the kind of margin that you are looking for in order to be building sustainably and for the long term within your business. Because in order to grow down the line, you are going to need to take a risk, and it's helpful if you've kind of built up a little safety net from a previous margin in order to be able to do that. So now this is like a broad introduction to margins. I think it can be helpful if you've not even ever looked at what your margins are. But I also think it can be fun if you're already looking at margins to kind of enter into this conversation. But if you're like, I don't know what I'm talking about, or I have a very specific margin that I need to create, I'm happy to chat with you one-on-one. I'd love to see what you're doing. Excel spreadsheets can be, or Google Sheets can be like a really helpful place to start to craft some of those margins and that analysis. And there are like lots of people out there that say this percentage margin is optimal for blah, 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 blah. The truth is, like, there's all sorts of business as usual, but we need to find the data point that is most relevant for you and your business and allows you to show up and spread the word in a way that like makes it fun to sell, makes it meaningful to deliver, and keeps your customers happy and makes the juice worth the squeeze for you and your team. All right, that's my hot take on margins and pricing your services. Looking forward to talk to you again soon. Bye.